They want to win World Finals. They just have dreams and we have real chances.
Welcome back, everybody, to the European LCS as we are joined by Fnatic's Cyanide 2-0 today, and not just a 2-0 versus Gambit and versus Alliance. Did you guys yourselves expect to do this good?
Honestly, I didn't know what to expect because they are probably the strongest two teams like in LCS right now. So I was thinking, oh, maybe we're not going to do so great today, but we actually beat them both, so it feels really good.
Just very quickly, in your mind, what is it that helped you get those victories? What stands out as the most important?
I think against Alliance we had really good rotations. Like they are very good individually, but they were like still trying to figure out their team play maybe. And against Gambit, yeah, we had a good level 1. Like it actually was bad for me and Soaz because I lost my red buff because of it, because I took so long to take my blue, and Soaz got a bit screwed out bot lane, like top lane, because he came to lane really late, but Reckless got some advantage and they carried really hard with yellow.
You lost your red buff, which puts you behind versus Shook, which is already, as we believe the hype that is around him, a very tough matchup. Do you play differently? Is there something that you prepare for when you go up in the jungle against him?
Against Shook, I was covering my lanes a lot because he was playing Lee Sin, which is obviously really good early game. I was doing okay, but I think at one point I was even covering too much. Like I lost my red buff at one point. Like I just realized, wait, they are taking blue, he can't be bottom, and then he just went for my red and took it, and I was like face palming, but...
It felt like a very chaotic game. You know, there were moments where Alliance were in the lead, there were moments you guys were in the lead, and it swung back and forth a lot. I want to ask you, what was the calling like in the Fnatic camp when Reckless was pushing the top lane, was going all the way to the inhibitor, Alliance started pushing up the middle, and I started getting like, well, they've got to do something, but you guys just stuck true. What was happening in calling? What was the decision making for your team?
Yeah, so basically we had Ziggs, who can just clear the waves with his Q or whatever, ultimate even, and they could not push without creeps really that fast as we could with Reckless. So we knew we would win the trade anyway, and I was getting a bit scared actually at one point, like you're gonna maybe get dived, so I was even recalling, and my team is like, no, you're stupid, like just push, and I'm like, okay.
Cyanide, what is sweeter, a victory versus Gambit or versus Alliance?
I think they were both equally sweet. Like I was equally scared about both games.
Okay.
Well, my question now, very quickly about Alliance. There's 0-2 today. There was a lot of hype about the team. What is it that actually cost them the victory? You know, as a team, do you think it's just age that they don't really gel just yet, or do you think it's something deeper?
Like I said, against us, our rotations were better. Like the top lane push we did, it basically gave us a lot of advantage, even though we were maybe a bit behind before that. I'm not 100% sure because I don't actually nicely see the goal like you guys, but...
Yeah, we're cheating a little bit when it comes to that, of course. Now we're going to see what you guys had to say over on Twitter. Of course, today we asked you, which European LCS Pro are you looking forward watching this week and why? And here are some of the best answers. The first one is from @CrunchyDonkey. I am happy our Russian prince has returned to my beloved Gambit. Look forward to seeing some support carry.
I think it was a little disappointed after the first game, thanks to these fellas over here. But definitely, you know, Edward's been outspoken on Twitter, and I want to see these unique picks he's been talking about. He played Thresh. Come on, that's boring. Play something exciting.
Mumu, please. And the second one is from @KagaTMS. I am most excited to watch Reckless overcome the pressure and be the carry that Fnatic needs. And he did show that.
Yeah, like Reckless did very well in the first game and very well in the second game as well. So if you're an AD carry, I would definitely look at him as well.
Yeah, straightforward. The third one is from @ScumbagsLazy. Nif, I'm excited to see how he's going to adapt to his new team in the short time and how their bot lane synergy will be.
I think Nif is definitely you know, a great player. Little bit off his game maybe today, missing some skill shots we're not used to seeing him miss. But a couple more games and maybe he'll be back to the same form that we've seen alongside Candy Panna from SK.
Yeah, I got to give him some time. Of course, follow us to keep up with the excitement and to send us your answers @LOL Esports. And of course, remember to use the hashtag LCS. Now, the Wolves and Gambit are almost ready to go, so let's send it over to Joe and the Fee Show.
Thank you very much, Shox. And it is, of course, as you said, Gambit versus the Copenhagen Wolves. Now, if we look back on this one, Gambit having a bit of a woeful start, losing out to the old-term rivals. You know, Fnatic vs Gambit's a classic game these days. They lost that one, and honestly, didn't look too great for them.
No, it's a bit of a weird game. They got some really good picks. For instance, they go with both Shyvana and Dr. Mundo, but they didn't really get to use them too well, especially in most of the early team fights. They actually decided to go in like 1 by 1, which meant that Reckless on Jinx just has pretty much free time to hit as much as he wants. And at the same time, they decided to go for a Fresh over Leona, which is, for me, very weird, especially because Leona versus Jinx, when she comes to team fights, is very strong, and it's very easy for you as Leona to actually hit Jinx.
One thing they did do well, though, against Fnatic was dragon control. The numbers are actually quite small in this one. There were 2 dragons taken in the game. They had 2 of them, 100% dragon rate. It's never a bad thing for an entire team, but that kind of stemmed from a bigger picture in that one. The fact that Diamond, overall in the jungle, had an average of 37 CS, more than his opposite number, Cyanide, in that game. And that just goes to show that Diamond's always going to be a dangerous factor, however far behind you are.
Oh yeah, Diamond did a very good job of constantly farming and constantly picking up farm in the lanes wherever there was anything he could get. At the same time, we know he has good dragon control. He used to play the Nasus where he also could just solo the dragon, but it didn't really give too much, especially because Vi on Cyanide at that point, he was more active on ganking and putting pressure on the lanes, where Diamond Prox was just more or less farming.
On the other side, though, the Copenhagen Wolves, a team which I don't think anyone knew quite truly what to expect of them. We've heard some people saying they are a top 3 team. We've heard other people saying they're going to be fighting for relegation spots this year. Well, they didn't really look like it in game number 1, did they, in terms of the relegation at least, after beating Alliance in their first match of the season. Coutard playing Kayle in that game, 4-1-5 overall. I mean, just everything went really well for them in that game.
Yeah, it was definitely a great game from Copenhagen Wolves, but also a great combo they used. We're in a meta right now where heavy engage is very popular. And what Copenhagen Wolves did was they just picked a counter-engage combo. Lulu and Kayle shut down the Vi engage pretty much every time. No matter Vi would engage on, they would have either the ultimate from Kayle or the ultimate from Lulu, simply stop this person from dying. So overall, great combo by Copenhagen Wolves and some great calls in the game.
This one itself is a very hard one to call as well. I think we heard Youngbuck in the interview afterwards that said, you know, I was scared of Alliance. They were the team that we were expecting to lose to today, and we thought we can maybe take Gambit, which is a bold statement, I think, in itself. But if we look at Youngbuck in his lane against Darien, these are 2 players that really excel in the meta game of right now. These tanky top laners, both of them, you know, the likes of Renekton and Shyvana, can play them brilliantly. I'm just wondering what we can expect in terms of picks from these 2 guys.
Now, personally, I expect Shyvana to be the really contested one. I know Youngbug isn't the biggest fan of Dr. Mundo. He will play it if it's open and it's what he needs to pick at this point for the team. But personally, he prefers Shyvana, or he even got some more cheesy picks that we might be able to see. Personally, I hope we're going to see one of them. But for me, Shyvana pick is going to be like the big question. It might even be banned away, though, and forcing them to either go on a Renekton or a Mundo or, for instance, an Olaf. Well,
it's funny because at this point in the game, of the day, you know, after winning the game you expected to lose, do you play safe now because it worked the last time around? Do you go crazy and hope to take down Gambit and go 2-for-0 for the day? We'll find that out in a little while. We're first of all, though, going to check out the starting lineups for today, starting with the blue side, with the Russians of Gambit. They are, of course, Darien in the top lane, Diamond Prox in the jungle, Alex Ich in the mid lane, Genja the AD carry, and Edward the support.
And on the red side, it's Copenhagen Wolves. We have Youngbug in the top lane, Amazing is the jungler, Coutard in the mid lane, Forgiven as the AD carry, and Unlimited on support.
So what do we think to this game then? Because as I said, there's a lot of different things to take into account. The fact that the Wolves won their first game and the fact that Gambit lost that one. You also have to say that Gambit are a very angry team when they lose. Usually the game afterwards, you don't want to be the team that plays Gambit after they lost.
Now this is the thing about Gambit, you never know where you got them. They can go in, lose the first game really badly, and then the next game they just turn on the power and go completely crazy. I think, though, that Copenhagen Wolves is very relaxed. I think they believe in themselves, and especially after the win versus Alliance, which gave them a huge boost. So I actually expect Copenhagen Wolves to come in and give a very good show.
And that's the thing that Youngbuck said. We didn't expect to beat Fnatic. That wasn't the the points that we'd really factored in there. Alliance. They were the points that we factored into our victory here today. And well, it kind of worked the opposite way from them. I'm just wondering if maybe on that same token they might have underestimated Gambit here somewhat, whether they've put that more work into Gambit and that's where their confidence come from. I think what I'm trying to say overall, as I'm jabbering on, is just that it's so hard to call what's going to happen exactly in this game.
You can never call Gambit games. That's one rule I've learned, especially now as a player yourself. When you look at the games, you're like, oh, so we have Gambit. They just lost 2 games yesterday. Sure, they're down. We will beat them. You go in and Gambit just plays absolutely crazy and they beat you. So for me, predicting this game right now is going to be pretty much impossible.
So the strategy is, when you're playing against Gambit, decide what they're going to do, and then once you've done that, they're going to do exactly the opposite, so plan for that as well. That might actually be a more effective strategy here to taking down Gambit Gaming, who we talked about it in the pre-game show, the fact that this is the old Moscow 5 together. This lineup has so much experience. They've had so many titles under their belt. They win IEM like it's a walk in the park every time they turn up there. Copenhagen Wolves, they've had those changes. We asked Youngbuck about them earlier on, but they seem to be playing like a team that have not had any changes for a very long time and are completely gelled together.
It just seems like a very good, team synergy to have, at least, especially in game with the teamwork, the calls, and I actually maybe think for them getting Amazing, who Youngbuck said also in the interview is a very vocal player. He makes a lot of calls, he brings a lot to the team outside of just him as a player. I think maybe getting him in give them this a little boost. Everyone thought when Shook was gone and when Reckless was gone that was Copenhagen Wolves. They're gone now. They're not going to do anything. But Amazing coming in, also Forgiven coming in, being such a skilled AD carry as he is, has really given Copenhagen Wolves also the boost they need, and it's given the remaining 3 players the confidence in saying, yeah, we are also very good because we can keep this team going. And right now we're in the LCS, we're 1-0. If we win this one, we're 2-0. And everyone is just going to expect good things from us.
Well, while we're on a bit of a topic there, and I was just watching the mid laners, funnily enough, with those cameras on them, got a little bit of it's quite a random fact, actually, in the grand scheme of things, but the last time that Kauthard played against Gambit in the LCS, he was, of course, the mid laner for the Copenhagen Wolves, but in that game, the Test couldn't play. So actually, you were supporting him as he played AD carry. That game didn't really go as planned.
Well,
if you even had a plan, actually.
So the plan for that game actually was Varna to Copenhagen. But it wasn't too much about versus Shyvana in that game, simply due to a lack of spread push from Alliance. But this, I'm actually going to be surprised to see if Gambit picks up, or not surprised, but I'm going to expect him to pick up Renekton, but I hope they have something else in mind.
Possible Trundle. Who knows? Darien can be a massive troll at times, so it would kind of fit into that one. We'll see about that. Lucian was also picked up. We've seen Forgiven doing well time and time again with Lucian. So that's maybe you'd say a surprise as a first pick, but they want to get that secured because Genji does also play the Lucian.
Genji plays Lucian, and Lucian overall is a very safe pick to go with. You don't really have a bad point in any game with Lucian. You're good early game, you're good mid game, and you're good late game. So Lucian, for me, no surprise seeing that. He's kind of like, it's him or Jinx, mainly, as the two contested picks. But Jinx is a lot more risky to play, and especially against the Lee Sin, who has the ability to jump on you and then kick you back into the team.
Oh, one thing we didn't think about here, banned in the first game against Gambit, was Kha'Zix, a champion which Alexic racked up a pentakill on in the LCS. We saw it in the top 5 players from last year actually early on, and a Kennen pickup as well for Gambit.
I'm gonna make a risky call right here and say that support Kennen. There, I said it. I expect Edward to play this. We saw him play a Mumu support, we've seen him play so many different stuff, and he talked actually about this Kennen. I didn't know if he was serious, but he might actually have been.
You never quite know if Edward's really being serious and talking from his heart, or actually just trolling you to the max and then laughing at you later when he watches the VOD back. On the other side though, Copenhagen Wolves have already locked in the Olaf.
Now Olaf is a great pick, especially against something like Lee Sin. He's able to duel him early game, and he will outscale Lee Sin into the late game. If the lanes from Copenhagen are winning and Olaf can just stay in the jungle to farm, he's going to be very strong and very hard to deal with for Gambit. And also he can run straight through Kennen ultimate.
And this is the other, almost a trademark Copenhagen Wolves pick up halfway through the picks, Zyra. Because we know Kautard loves to play Zyra in the mid lane as well. But on the end, does that go into the support role once someone else actually gets picked up on the other side?
Now Zyra can go into the support, Unlimited has played it before, but it's been hit quite hard through recent patches. The early game presence of Zyra is a bit lower as a support, but she still works really well as an AP carry, and Kautard is known for playing the Zyra.
Well, what a Gambit gonna finish off with Warwick, which usually we'd say is probably out of the question here, but the fact is, well, it's gonna be locked in. Darien played it, of course, in the Battle of the Atlantic, where they managed to take down XDG 2-0, and we're gonna be seeing that one again for him here.
I absolutely love Gambit. Straight up, they play Kennen support this game, and now they have a Warwick top lane. The amount of CC they can bring in, and if they can manage to lock down a target for Alex to jump on and get a kill, he can get the reset and keep going. Now, Genji are locked into Jinx. Jinx itself is very good versus Lucian, especially because at level 6 you have more damage than Lucian due to your ultimate being direct damage, while Lucian's ultimate is more damage over time. But Olaf is a very good pick versus Jinx. He runs through the traps, and if he lands 1x on Jinx, she pretty much has to flash.
Yeah, flash, or in the unlucky occasion where you don't have your flash anymore, going down, I'm afraid. On the other side then, for the Wolves, their final pickup, what are they going to go with? We see a Lulu possibly, and they utilized this in that last game. We talked about it, the fact that the engage composition right now is very, very popular, and a way to counter that is to go for a disengage comp.
And I love this Lulu pickup because whoever Warwick targets, she can ultimate and therefore prevent Kha'Zix from getting his reset. At the same time, if Kha'Zix should jump in, Lulu can actually Whimsy him when he gets in, and they can try and burst him down before he can again potentially get the reset and jump out again.
So many interesting things to think about in this one. Kennen support, I mean, you're the support expert here, Deficio, so how does Kennen support work? What is Edward going to be doing? What benefits does a Kennen support have?
Now, my idea for this is that he's going to have some AD runes, and he's going to put a lot of focus on auto attack poking in the early stages of the lane, and he's therefore going to try to zone away Lucian and Lulu from CS. At the same time, once you hit the level 6, you have a lot of CC to bring, not necessarily too much damage as you are the support, but just the amount of CC you can bring combined with maybe a Lee Sin jumping in for the gank, or just the damage straight up from Jinx. It's actually going to make a very deadly combo.
Well, it turns out that Edward wasn't trolling you when he said that Kennen support was going to be coming in from this one. We'll see if that has actually changed how you guys at home have voted. I don't think it will, though, somehow, because we have a lot of Gambit fans out there, and according to the voting, 89% of you have said that Gambit are going to win this one. Only 11% predicting the victory for the Copenhagen Wolves, and I wonder how many of that 11% came after their win against Alliance.
Probably a few of the percent, but I will disagree with the votings. I'll say this is 50-50. The combo from Gambit, we haven't actually seen something like this before, so it's going to be interesting to see how they will make it work. But if they do manage to make it work, I can see they have a very deadly teamfight combo, and they have the opportunity to lock down targets very easily.
Let's talk about Warwick, because he's not a pick that we see very often. In fact, it's pretty much just Darian that does that. He was strong in the lane earlier on. We are going to get into the game here in just a second, but give us your thoughts on that Warwick here as we come into game.
Well, the Warwick pick for me, if he decides to go for full tank, he's going to be very hard to kill for Shyvana, but at the same time, unless he actually builds some sort of AoE, like for instance, let's say, what's it called, a Hydras, to simply stop the push from Shyvana, then I have a hard time seeing actually defending turrets versus Shyvana. But maybe Gambit wants to go for pure team fights with this combo.
Well, let's have a look then. Gambit versus the Copenhagen Wolves. Both teams, well, in different positions, funnily enough. Gambit looking to win their first game. The Wolves have already taken down Alliance today. And, well, we're going to have a quick pause here at the start just to get things underway. I think that's on Gambit's side of things, actually. So the admins, as you saw on the camera, on the team cam, are in fact behind the players, so that should be getting fixed here. And it looks like it's Alexic, and you don't want to have a problem if you're going to be relying on constant resets in the middle of a team fight.
It looks to be an issue with his screen, though. And he actually seemed to have the issue in Champ Select as well, so not really that big of a surprise for the pause. But for me, though, if you go back to the combo, we go back a little bit to the Warwick, it's going to be very interesting for me to see how they choose to go with this. Will they camp the lane of Warwick to help him, maybe try and make him stronger than Shyvana, and build some single target damage on him, and then try to simply fight the Shyvana? Not try to have a push war with her, but simply just try and go straight on her every time he has the chance, and try and pressure her out of the lane. I will expect him though to go full tank, and then do a lot of roaming, and maybe just leaving Shyvana to push a bit for herself.
And become that guy that appears out of the bush from nowhere and stuns you whilst doing damage for a good couple of seconds from this one. Looks like Alexic is actually having to do a little bit of a restart in here. And I think Gambit are one of the few players, certainly there are a few others in there, that don't play full screen. They have like these tiny little windows in the middle of their screen. And, well, that's just a preferences thing recently. I mean, you probably know it yourself that playing on stage here, certainly in week one where you've not maybe had as much time as obviously when it comes around to the later weeks of the season, it can be hard to adjust sometimes.
It can be hard to adjust, and you can feel it. Even the smallest things you actually feel because you put so much attention to them when you set up everything. So obviously for them, or for Alex right now, if he feels there's something wrong with his screen, like just a small thing that annoys him, it can be the light, it can be something, he obviously wants to say it and sort it, because you don't want the equipment to lose your game.
Certainly don't. And, well, the equipment is always a bonus. I lost count of the amount of times that players have been borrowing mouse pads from other people so that they could get their practice in and what have you. But you know, luckily for us, we've got a lot of managers around these days, and those kind of things are becoming all the more less common. But we'll be getting back into this one in just a few moments here once Alexic's monitor problem actually does get started, and that gives us a little bit more time to talk about the whole setup of this one. You said 50-50 from this one. Would you have said the same before we actually saw the first two games from these teams today?
I probably wouldn't. I did expect good things from Copenhagen Wolves because I know how good they are. I know they are very experienced, even though they've only been playing the Challenger Series, but they've been playing it for so long and they've been playing so many games, especially also on stage. So I didn't feel like Copenhagen Wolves came in as like a big underdog, but I'd probably put it on like 60-40 to Gambit. And that's mainly just because I felt like before this, and hopefully Gambit will show me now, that I really feel like Gambit looks strong.
And as we've said before, that Gambit are a angry team if you meet them after they've lost a game. Like they're in that scenario where they've lost a game and then they turn around and they beat you before the 20-minute mark even comes on the clock. They're so very scary to go up against when they've had this one. It seems to fire them up. They almost need a loss some point along the line to regain that hunger to really destroy people.
It's Gambit, man. It's weird to explain. If you look back at the very first split, Gambit actually lost twice to Giants, but they pretty much dominated everyone else. It was very weird to see how they could win 3 games, go against Giants, and everything just fell apart from them. And then the next game, they were back in. So to explain Gambit is pretty much impossible.
Pretty impossible indeed. And we just want to touch on another thing that we've not really noted, but it's obviously very relevant for this game, because the Wolves they're a new team here into the LCS. We've got 3 new teams, of course, and 2 of them already have victories here today, which we actually, funnily enough, saw in the last split as well, when we saw, you know, Alternate and Meet Your Makers on week 1 in particular. They went undefeated until the very last game where they actually played each other, and Alternate came out on top of that one. So it's good to see that these teams that have, you know, people have not been quiet about, because we have seen a lot of the challenger scene throughout the year, but certainly not given maybe as much hype to as some of the big names, the Gambits, the Alliances out there. It's great to see that they can come in straight from week 1, again, a second split in a row, and cause some big wins.
And to me, it shows how strong the overall scene actually is. You don't have to be in LCS to play really serious and improve a lot and then form a great team. Like, just seeing teams like, again, as you mentioned, MYM and Alternate coming in from last bit, and now Copenhagen Wolves and KMT coming in here. Also, Super Crew only played 1 game, so we can't really count them out.
That's true.
But the fact that our challenger scene is so strong, and the fact that we can keep providing these new teams that can come in and dominate the scene, it just keeps making the region better and better. And it's actually really, really nice to see.
Actually, the players were just asking for hand warmers there. Want to buy hand warmers, said amazing. And actually, about a minute later, he said, "Thank you, Riot, for delivering the hand warmers." As you can see there, they're able to warm the hands up. I don't know how they're managing to be cold at this point. We should maybe lend them a couple of the lights that are on us at this point, because, well, it's quite warm up here on our little bit of the stage. But certainly important to have warm hands. That's what you're relying on.
There's nothing worse than playing with cold hands. That's pretty much it. Like, you feel everything is going slow, you feel your reactions are slower, and you feel uncomfortable. So obviously, keeping your hands warm is very important. We see Copenhagen Wolves use them a little bit more than Gambit, though.
Do we see? Yeah, I was going to say Gambit generally we don't really see with the hand warmers. Funnily enough, it's Edward with the hand warmers, a player who's from one of the coldest places in the world, I guess. So it's quite interesting that he's the one that has cold hands after everything.
Well, maybe he changed a little bit after he went to NA.
That's
now
true.
Came back. Maybe he's a little bit spoiled about the weather.
Yeah, I think it's thrown him off his Russian cycle here. Or maybe he's just got the hand warmers to mess around with.
Yeah, he's just playing with it. That's pretty fun to watch. You should cast that.
Well, I cast a replay earlier on, so I suppose I can pretty much cast anything these days, although I'm not sure it'd be so riveting talking about the hand warmers that these guys are using. Just a quick update on the scenario here, or the situation here. Alex Ich has left the game and joined the game about 3 or 4 times in the time that we've been talking here. So obviously having a couple of issues in getting his monitor all perfect, and what the exact problem is there, not quite sure, but of course we'll be able to let you know. Actually gives me a bit of time to talk about one thing that we didn't really talk about, which is your old pal Kautard playing that Zyra in the mid lane again.
Now, Kautard for me, he's like this person, I've been watching him grow ever since we played with him with Copenhagen Wolves the first 3 weeks. He actually came in like as the last-minute substitute, and we managed to qualify with him, mainly just playing Zyra and Morgana. And now watching him now expand his champion pool, he plays pretty much everything you can in the mid lane, and seeing just the way he's improved since that is absolutely amazing, and he really deserves to be here in the LCS.
While we're talking about your former teammates, we might as well continue that trend. Of course, Bjergsen now over with TSM in North America. They're super weak with another bunch of games just like here in Europe starts on Friday. What are you expecting out of Bjergsen this year? Obviously, he's moved to North America, has given him a lot of fans. He's definitely grown in popularity. You see that with his streaming numbers. How are you expecting him to do over there?
Personally, I expect Bjergsen to, I wouldn't say dominate the scene, but I expect him to be the best mid laner in NA. I'm not going to say any less than that. I know Hai is a very great mid laner, Mandatory Cloud is a very great mid laner, but I personally expect Bjergsen to go over there and show how good he actually is. He's been living in a gaming house now with TSM for some time, he practiced a lot, and I hope this really means that he can take the next step, and I hope to see him at Worlds.
Well, he's got a dog now as well, so that's something more to be caring for. But do you think that's the missing step for TSM, actually? Someone like Bjergsen to carry them to a win?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the dog.
Or the dog might be also the missing step in the formula.
It's actually called Kappa.
Okay.
That's pretty weird.
That's a great name for a dog.
Maybe, but let's talk about again, TSM Bjergsen. This is actually what they have needed. Now, Reginald was a good player, but he had too much focus on too many things. He was running the whole company, he was running the team, and he was also playing on the team. That means he didn't have enough time, to practice, keep him updated and everything. Bjergsen comes in here, he only has one thing he does, that is practice, 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 and prepare for the games. So, this step for TSM was absolutely perfect.
Well, certainly a good sign, and I think everyone can really agree on that one at this point. Guys, while we wait on the action to resume, we're actually going to be joined by Millennium's jungler, Aranea, for a bit of a chat.
Yes, we are. Aranea, the jungler, of course, for Millennium. It's cool always to have a player to talk about the pick and ban phase from the game that's about to go on, because you guys both wanted to highlight some special things in there.
Support Kennen. Like, I've been calling Edward out the whole day on the show. We did it in pre-show, did it before they played against Fnatic, and now even in the last interview. And I'm happy to see him picking it. I have no idea how it's going to work because it can snowball super hard, and I can also see it backfiring where he's just going to be a less effective stun bot than Leona.
It's not only that, it's also Warwick. Like top lane Warwick against Olaf, I think it is. Or it's Ivan, I don't know. Like, it's still like any champion will outpush Warwick and can do anything in the map. While Warwick can just like Q and auto attack is nothing.
Don't you think his suppress is OP? Don't you think when he puts his ultimate down?
No, I don't think so.
Well, that's the answer then.
Is there anything else that you see are maybe reactionary in the picks from Gambit? Do you think they are, you know, a little bit surprised themselves that they lost in that first game today?
Well, the first thing I want to highlight is that in this particular matchup, they're playing into a Zyra, which is a great disengage, you know, against champions like Kennen, like Kha'Zix, like even Warwick in a way. So I'm expecting a lot of pressure on Kautar to actually help his team survive these team fights once they get going.
For me, it's like, it's all about Kautar to win that game. Like if he can pull some good ultimates in team fights, he can crush the team alone. Like Warwick, Lee, Kha'Zix, and even Kennen, they will get destroyed by Zyra ultimate and Zyra plants. So it's all about him. And in the other side, like Gambit team has no AP damage. So that means that Copenhagen Wolves can go like full armor, and at late game it will be so painful for Gambit to do any damage.
Warwick will eat them with his AP.
I don't think so still.
Well, in any case, very interesting picks. I'm very excited to see how that will turn out. So let's go back over to the desk to the Fee Show and Joe.
Thank you very much, Shox. And we are ready to get back into the action, so let's get straight in then. Just as a disclaimer, and I've got Demon on my side, and the rest of England, it's Warwick and not Warwick.
I'm Danish, I don't care.
It's a good answer. I approve of that answer. The German crowd here just went, we all call it Warwick. So whatever, Joe. It doesn't matter. We're in game now again with Gambit versus the Copenhagen Wolves. And there's Warwick on your screen. Look at him. He's looking great. We'll see how great he looks at the end of this game, though.
Yeah, Aaron actually touched on a very interesting thing, the lack of AP damage from Gambit. This Shyvana can go full armor, and I don't know how she's gonna die.
Well, I wonder that normally when you've got a good mix in there, to be honest with you, but when you've only got that attack damage coming your way, this could be hard to break from Gambit's side of things, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see how things develop. This is another question mark for us. Kennen in the support role for Edward.
I actually expect him to do a lot of work, especially early game, where he has a lot of harass, he has a lot of good poke, and at the same time, he is having a Doran shield, so he's very tanky. He's going to be hard to kill for Copenhagen Wolves in the bot lane. So I actually expect him to put a lot of pressure on them.
Well, let's see, the 130 mark comes by, and the ward trinkets all coming into play as we get a pretty standard right now wards across the map. If we look down to the bottom lane, though, both duos have got there as early as possible.
This was exactly what went a bit wrong from Fnatic in the last game. They went in the lane at 155. It's the trick to do to simply get early experience. You see a fight.
Yeah, they're going to break this one out. And actually, Edward and Genja pretty much been shared in terms of how much damage they're taking. Edward already down to half. And that's hopefully, for us at least, a sign of things to come down the bottom.
A lot of action from the start. Copenhagen Wolves they were not just happy being in the lane. They had to sneak into the push and actually start an early fight.
Well, Unlimited having to pop what he can here to get back up to decent health, and he takes an initial blast there as he comes back through from Genja and Edward, but the Copenhagen Wolves are forcing the minions up on towards the turret, and that's going to cause them to have a bit more trouble. I don't expect Genja to really be missing much under the turret there. Actually missed 2 out of 3 creeps, which at these early levels could make a difference.
It could definitely make a difference for the first recall. The trick is always like, if you're like 10 CS behind, it's pretty much either a portal or an item, but for me, interesting enough, Forgiven is still full HP, while Genji is down to 50%. This means that Genji has a very hard time getting close to CS without being poked a lot by Forgiven, who's really safe at this point.
Yeah, we can see there Forgiven actually just pushing that wave through once again. Genji trying to stay as safe as he can out at the back of things. Again, just to touch on that, both supports starting off with that Doran shield again.
Yeah, it's a safe, simple start. None of them decided to go for the relic, pretty much because they didn't want to upgrade into the heart of the mountain. So Doran Shield is the go-to start right now, and it's also pretty much the most safe. You're more tanky, and at the same time you have 10 HP regen from level 1.
I'll tell you what though, Genja is a little bit low from this, and of course still has a barrier and a flash available, but Ignite for Unlimited, it must be a little bit tempting for him here as the damage actually comes down. Genja flashing low, but we see that Diamond is actually headed around that mid lane here. Alexic taking a bit of a hit from Kauthard. He's actually going to dive in there. Kauthard caught all kinds of out of position here, and that slow really holding him back. There's the flash actually coming in. Oh my god, he's turned around. He's got the first blood. He does go down in the end. The axe going through. Diamond manages to dodge it pretty much blindly, and now Amazing going to chase down. Where is Youngbuck? He's not come down from his top lane just yet. Let's see how good Diamond is at dodging two men.
Seems so far he's gonna escape unless he goes through 2000. No, he can actually get out for free. Amazing though, comes in, saves the day. Kauthard moves slightly up to him and then flashes in the end. Gambit do not expect him to be there. He pops in and instantly, boom, kill on Alex.
Impressive from Diamond to actually escape that one, but now losing out on that first blood. And Kauthard, we've seen just how good he can be with this Zyra, and that first blood going to help him out. Obviously not quite as powerful as it used to be, but it's a first blood nonetheless, and he's already back into the lane here with that second Doran's ring and a flask as well.
Flask and double Dorans gives him a lot of lane pressure early game and gives him a lot of damage actually. Once he delivers 6 marks, he's going to be able to poke Alex out and probably survive even if Alex should jump him, because he can put the ultimate on himself, forcing Alex to back out of the fight. Interesting enough though, if you look at the bot lane, 20 CS lead right now for Forgiven. We talked about it just before, how Genja was down to 50% and couldn't actually go close for any CS.
Oh, and there we see Edward taking a big hit as well. The double shot coming out from Forgiven, and Edward having to back away. Didn't burn his flash from that one. Obviously he's got good mobility here with the cannon, which can keep him safe in scenarios just like that.
Now, Copenhagen Wolves need to shove off this lane and recall and buy, because right now, Genji has 2 Doran's Blaze to only 1 Unforgiven. If they do stay in the lane, once Genji comes, Edward actually comes back in the lane, it's a Gambit who has the advantage due to having more items.
Well, Forgiven actually helping up there with Unlimited to put more damage down onto Genja, and they want to get rid of at least this wave before they decide to head back home, by which point Edward will be back into that bottom lane to support his AD carry. Let's see if they can push that through quick enough. There is Edward already past halfway mark on that lane. Meanwhile, Alex continues to take hits from Kauthard Zyra in the middle.
And we see the bot lane from Copenhagen Wolves recalling now. They push in the lane a little bit too late. They could have pushed it harder and therefore come back to lane a bit earlier. Now Gambit actually has a chance to freeze it, which can be a big issue for Copenhagen Wolves.
Well, we're going to see Lucian Forgiven coming back with the Phage in there for the very first item pickup from him. This top lane being a little bit quiet. Youngbuck versus Darian, Warwick versus Shyvana.
Now, a bit of an issue for Gambit is the fact that Youngbuck is actually winning the lane early on. And he's also, engaged on Kauthard.
Oh, this is bad for Kauthard. He doesn't have the flash available, and Diamond this time around not going to let Kauthard pick up a kill. The passive actually going straight through him. Not really any damage at this stage. And that's Gambit. Diamond playing Lee Sin.
And this is also what happens when you have to blow your flash early, especially versus an early game jungler like Lee Sin. He can just keep coming mid lane right now and picking up kills on Kauthard, and therefore getting Alex more and more fed and slowballed.
And that's always a dangerous thing. Alexic on Kha'Zix, he was banned earlier against Fnatic in that first game that they lost of the season, but this time around he's been allowed to get it, and we'll see how much that comes back. If at all, that might not happen on the Copenhagen Wolves. Meanwhile, there we are, casting away in the dark, but we are going to be getting back into game in just a second, I assure you, on that one. There we go, we're back in game.
Big engagement coming down on Unlimited. Gambit is starting to take control of this lane. Once they hit level 6, it's going to be interesting to see if they want to go for fights or what they choose to do with the cannon support.
Well, they've pushed them out of there, and actually they're coming back into this one. Olaf is up by the blue buff. Is he going to venture down? Actually doing a little bit more of the jungle before he decides on that one or not, and he is starting to move in here, so we will see Amazing come down towards this bottom lane. What they would give now for a Thresh Lantern, I think, to get him in there faster. He's not, he is actually level 6 now, so he can come in there. He does have Ghost as well, but actually the Copenhagen Wolves doing some good damage to Edward, but taking some back. It's been a very back and forth lane, this one.
Notice how much CS Edward actually has. Genji had to recall twice, where Edward could just CS alone, which also means he's gonna hit level 6 before Genji. At the same time though, with the walls coming in, as you talked about, Lulu has the ability to whimsy him when he comes in range and speed him up. It's not a lantern, but it's something.
Certainly a speed boost, that's for sure. And with that Ghost on and Ragnarok to stop any stuns or any CC coming his way, always going to be a good thing. However, Edward is now level 6. You can imagine that Genji's going to be not too far behind him as well, and that's where that combination could be put into play from Gambit.
I'm really looking forward to see if they decide to go for early fights. Obviously, Lulu is not level 6 yet. Once she hits level 6, it's going to be a bit harder for him to burst down a target. But again, Copenhagen will start to recall bot lane, and once again, Gambit can freeze it.
Freezing that one out, which means that it's going to be even longer. And to be honest, Edward might be well on his way to 7 at that point by the time Copenhagen Wolves get themselves back in towards the lane. A second Doran's Blade actually picked up by Forgiven as he decided to go back off. Alexic has got himself that Hex Drinker now, so he'll be feeling a little bit safer against Kautodd Zyra.
Yeah, the Hex Drinker pretty much means that Kautodd can't really kill him 1v1. In a 2v2 scenario though, the Hex Drinker doesn't really do anything against Olaf. But so far now, just 1v1 based, Alex is doing fine. He's getting a lot of farm, and the more farm he can pick up now, the stronger he will be for the first few fights.
And those first few fights, we're almost 10 minutes into the game, probably aren't that far away. We see that Amazing throwing his axe off towards the dragon, and they're going to start it.
Great call by Copenhagen Wolves. They see Genji and Edward recalling from the bot lane, and immediately they call dragon. Gambit, even if they knew, couldn't even contest this one because it would only be Diamond and Alex left. Great call by Copenhagen Wolves.
Super Mega Death Rocket actually came through there, but, well, in vain, really. Didn't do much, and that will be the first dragon of the game going over to the Wolves. It puts them a 7,500 gold in the lead. 7,500 would be a bit drastic at this point.
A little bit, but Diamond actually is farming really well right now, and he also picked up 2 kills. He's ahead in CS from Olaf, even though we haven't actually seen Olaf do much, except for the counter gank in mid lane. So it's going to be interesting to see though how hard or how much Diamond actually can do with this gold.
Now, Unlimited and Edward now back into the lane. We see the Amp Tome actually for Edward on this one. See how much that really puts things into effect. Throwing those shurikens are actually taking a big hit there as he maybe went a little bit too close for comfort. But look at this, Diamond, he's headed around the side. Olaf's on the top side of the map, but there's a pink ward there to stop them, but it'll be taken straight out after being put down.
He can kill the pink ward now. Oh, see, jumping in mid.
Look at that, half HP gone already, and there are the Strangle Thorns, and Alexic flashes just out of range, passive dodged as well. Olaf came charging down with the Ghost running, but Amazing won't get into range. And he needs to be careful himself here now. We've got Lee Sin coming around. The kick is up for Diamond, but will he be able to get around the top side of him? Bottom lane is being pushed out, where I think Olaf has managed to escape up on that top side. I think the bottom's safe as well.
Now Kautodd values getting a Fiends as his first item so high that he hasn't actually built any armor in the lane, meaning Alex can jump on him and pretty much burst him down from 100% to 0 within a few seconds.
And that's exactly what just happened. The flash as well took Alex. It's just out of range of those Strangle Thorns, which meant that he pretty much survived, because if that would have landed, Olaf was right on top of him.
But I have to question this a Fiend build as the first item for Kautodd. He's against pretty much an all AD team except for the Cannon and, yeah, let's say Warwick. But he decides to get their Fiend so early, and maybe it's going to actually backfire even more than he's done already.
Well, he's sat at 1-3-0. In fact, well, you don't need to be a genius to work out the 3 kills that Gambit have. All have come from Kautodd. 2 of them for Diamond, 1 now for Alexic. And we can see what that's really offered him in game. And the Hex Drinker was there before, but now there's a Brutalizer and a Vamp Scepter on top of that.
Now, Brutalizer for him means he can go for a Tiamat into a Hydra, and he can just wave clear, wave clear, wave clear, and he can also split push very fast. So Alex is off to a great start to this game. Diamond is off to a great start. The only issue for them right now, Gambit, and it's not actually even an issue because Edward has just picked up the farm that Genji is behind.
Yeah, that's certainly true. 19-2 if you look at the supports, and that is pretty much the exact amount between them. And there is Alex jumping in once again to Kautodd. He's managed to get towards his turret, but as the ulti gets popped there, Alex says thank you very much. He'll just jump back with the reset.
And this can just keep happening again and again unless Copenhagen Wolves reacts, puts Amazing in just around the middle, ready to go in if he should jump. Right now, he picks up the blue buff for himself, because why would you put it on Kautar if you can just die so easily?
Yeah, he's dying all the time. Obviously, just died a second ago, so he wasn't even around there, and you don't want to even risk losing that blue buff at this point towards Alex and having one on Diamond as well, just to cause you a bit of a double trouble effect.
Now, Copenhagen Wolves has two options. One, the one I talked about before, keep Amazing around the mid lane, ready to go in if Kautar should get jumped on. We do see Diamond though coming down for bot lane. He might actually want to dive.
Well, why not? Unlimited is at half HP right now, and he was spotted by a ward there. That's Boots' mobility making it look quite comical as he runs in, runs straight back out, but he's still thinking about this one. He's still hanging around by that tri-bush area, and they keep getting a slight bit of vision on him. He'll lose it now though as he started to recall and then realize, actually, you know what? I'm going to head up here. Spot's amazing. He's got a ward down of his own and throws another one because he didn't quite throw that one over the wall before. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Now, the only other option, if they don't want to keep Amazing around the mid lane, is to rotate Kautar around. They can take their bottom lane, put it mid, 2v1 versus Alex, and then keep swapping back and forth. It's not ideal, especially because Gambit is going to get even more free farm from that.
Yeah, and that could be a problem. I mean, Genja, the fact that he's been behind this entire time, it's going to allow him to start slowly catching things up. He's added Boots into his repertoire of items right now, something that Forgiven currently doesn't have, and Gambit doing nothing but pressure in this turret at this stage.
Gambit right now is playing the early game absolutely perfect. Due to all the pressure they have mid lane, Diamond now can focus on other lanes, which means when he's near bot lane, Gambit can just push the tower all they want. They don't even care if Olaf is there. If he should engage on them, then Diamond will come in time and turn the 3v3 around.
And look at one big item picked up there. Blade of the Ruined King, first of all for Youngbuck here. So going for that extra damage to try and make a bit of a dent onto Darian in the top lane.
It's simply just so he's having more impact in the top lane. We see Amazing really go for it. No, he just ups the wave clear. Right now, Copenhagen Wolves isn't really doing too much on the map. Amazing has to stay bot lane to defend, otherwise the bot tower is going to fall at the same time. In the top lane right now, Darian is actually caught up in CS.
Yeah, and Diamond, funnily enough, while that all was going on, he's in his own jungle, just farming away. Kautar, he still doesn't quite have his flash available, by the way. That has still got a little bit left on his cooldown, and well, he's going to be playing defensive until that comes up, and probably even after that, he'll be staying playing defensive.
I think Kautar at this point just wants to stay back, and he just wishes nothing more is going to happen this game. He already died 4 times. Alex has shown he can just jump on him whenever he wants to. Now the top lane though, it's going to be interesting to see the further we get into the game if Darian can keep holding his 1v1 versus the Shyvana.
Well, we'll see about that now because Shyvana is starting to push in there. We can see the gold difference specifically between these top laners hanging about 400, and the turret itself is incredibly low already. And that's really without much outside interference at all. These junglers have been all around the mid lane and that bottom lane.
This is actually going to be a free drain for Gambit. The bot lane of Copenhagen Wolves is not there. Amazing is not there. They're not even actually going to get the time on this one. Good play by Gambit, and a little bit issue for them, you just talked about it, was the top lane. The tower is going to go down very soon in favor of Youngbuck unless Diamond actually starts going up there to try and stop it.
Darian's actually trying to put a bit of a shield in between him and that turret to keep it alive for as long as he possibly can. The minions actually going in there. There is actually the first turret of the game going down to Gambit in the bottom lane. Top turret is still alive. Darian has managed to hold on to that one, but he's recalling, so it's probably not going to last another wave.
Olaf ghosting in.
Is he going to be able to catch Edward out from this one, though? That's the question for him. Actually, a lot of damage coming in. Has popped his ultimate as well, so the stun's not going to affect him whatsoever. But here comes the teleport. Here comes Warwick down onto this bottom lane. Where's he going to go? He decides to go for Forgiven. They need to keep pushing through on this one, though. Meanwhile, Amazing being hit by Diamond off to the side. There's Edward charging in. There's the ultimate coming out of him. Do they have the damage? There's the super mega death rocket. Edward picks up the kill. They're not done just yet, though. Warwick coming. Here comes Diamond. He lands the Q. Gets another one. He goes low. And now Forgiven's going to go down as well.
And meanwhile, Alex is fighting versus a Kautar in the middle of the lane, and they go 1-for-1. But all in all, amazing fight from Gambit down bot lane. They do lose the top tower for it though, but they pick up 3 kills bot lane, and Alex takes 1.
They're going to go for that inner turret in the top lane, in the bottom lane, sorry. They've lost their inner turret in the top lane there to Youngbuck, as you mentioned. Youngbuck's still going to push through, but Gambit are going to secure this one. That's a trade that they'll happily take, I suppose. Take the turrets, one apiece. and the kills.
This is such an aggressive game. Everyone is just making plays everywhere. Every time Copenhagen Wolves tries to do something, Gambit is there. They respond instantly, and they manage to pick up kills, towers. Yes, Youngbuck did a great push because of the TP from Darien, but all in all, still worth it for Gambit.
Well, here is that kill once again from Alex onto Kautar.
Actually, yeah, actually going to trade 1-for-1. Very good ultimate coming out from Kautar, knocking Alex up right at this point. I keep checking even though he's actually low, and it's going to be interesting to see if it's actually the passive from Kautar picking it up.
Nope. Ignite and the auto attacks just before he actually went down there. So one apiece, pretty much perfect for them, actually. For Kautar, at least, I say for them. Obviously, Kautar getting the bounty there that Alex had worked so hard to build up. In the meantime, we saw a bit of a rotation around to the mid lane now from the Copenhagen Wolves.
Now, Copenhagen Wolves actually managed to keep almost up in goal, mainly due to Youngbuck picking up the 2 towers, but also due to them in every lane except for mid lane, keeping up in CS.
Now, what is the next move from this one? It's Darien coming in. There is the Wild Growth put down, but they're going to lose Kautar almost instantly in that fight. There's a Super Mega Death Rocket Unlimited. He's going to fall as well. And look at Darien here. Knocking chunks out of them. Youngbuck, though, does finally turn that one around. Darien going super low. The Culling finishes him off on the last couple of bursts. And that will be a 2-for-2 in middle. But maybe the Wolves have got enough for the turret.
And Genja wasn't even there for the fight. Alex going in.
Oh, he's coming in. He's managed to get his first reset, but the second one will be used to get out. Diamond will get off to a ward as well. What is he done? He must be surely here from this one. Alex is having to recall, and Diamond is going to have to try and save this turret.
Forgiven can actually pick up this tower. Genja is still far away. It was a 4v5, and actually Unlimited misclicked his ultimate. He hit it on Amazing, who didn't even take damage, instead of Kautar, because Kautar got kicked away from him. And instead, Amazing was there to take the ultimate from Unlimited. But all in all, great move by Copenhagen Wolves, but at the same time, it was only a 4v5.
4v5, and you have to wonder how different that would have possibly been should Genja have actually been around in that one. Funnily enough, Edward's at 2-1-2 now. Got himself 25 CS in there as well, which will make him a happy bunny.
Now, he has gone for the Magic Pen boots. I said he to pick up Haunting Guys as his next item. So he wants to go for some AP. Maybe he's even going to try to go for Sonya's later in the game. But so far for now, he's just rushing early Magic Pen, which gives him a lot of damage. Oh, Darren going in.
Oh, going straight in towards Kautar. The zap comes down, and, well, Stranglethorns did come in the end, but not enough whatsoever to keep Kautar alive, and that is another kill. This time going around on towards Jinx. Is Youngbuck here going to be chased down by Alexic. The Blade of the Ruin King stealing away that movement speed, but the Wolf is on the hunt here. Darien tried to get in there, but he was slowed down by Lulu and put a ward in there. Pink was used pretty much instantly by the Copenhagen Wolves, so they keep that one. But look at this, Gambit with Kautar being down, with that massive AoE ultimate being down. They go for the Baron.
Unlimited might have spotted it, though. He's coming into it. If he wards it, he can stop the Baron from Gambit, or at least try and force a fight. Bit risky move from Gambit right here, though, but Kautar, as you said, is still dead. He has to run all the way from base. They don't have too much damage on Nashor, though.
Are they going to trust themselves with this one? We see there that Olaf trying to run in there from the side. Actually, will throw the axe in. He's going to try and go straight in towards Baron, but it's Gambit that picked that one up. We will see Youngbuck go down. That is very bad news. That's the big tanky man. Olaf was down as well. They're actually going to try and lock down Forgiven, who turns around. Puts a big blast in there. Edward goes very, very low. Gets the shield from Diamond to stay alive. Alex will jump over to Forgiven, and that will be another kill for Gambit.
Things just went from bad to worse for Copenhagen Wolves. They did spot the Nashor was being taken. Amazing was there. He tried to come for the steal. I think it was a bit of a misplay by him. He could actually have taken the fight instead of just rushing through them and trying to finish the Nashor, especially against the Lee Sin, who is very good at cleaning up or getting the Nashor due to the fact that he can actually Q it, and then he can Q and smite for the extra burst in the end. But all in all, Copenhagen Wolves, a bit of a desperate move for them to try and go in and steal it, but in the end, they couldn't actually do much more except for maybe take the fight and try and win it.
Try to win the fight, which was already a disadvantage for them with Kautar going down just prior to that. One thing that must be scary, I mean, just generally the game looks pretty bad for the Copenhagen Wolves at this point, but look at Alexic, 6-2-4, got that Hydra in there, picked himself up a pickaxe now. They're going to be taking another Dragon here, which Genja is quite happily soloing.
And it's just a matter of time before Alex goes back, finishes his last Whisper, starts working on most likely a Guardian Angel, and then he just becomes this absolute monster. once he gets the last Whisper, he can kill anyone on Copenhagen Wolves' team, even the Shyvana.
Darian also at 3-1-4. He's got those 2 major tanky items in there with the Spirit Visage with the Sunfire Cape as well. And looking like he's actually headed up to, I'm going to guess and say that Wit's End here.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a Wit's End. It's an item we don't actually see too much of anymore, but it's always been great on Warwick, and Darian has gone for full tank so far, so it's a little bit like we predicted.
And certainly not scared of getting his hands dirty and getting right into the middle of these fights. Edward himself, 2-1-6 now. That Haunting guys that we talked about earlier is now in position for him. Genja also adding the last Whisper into the Bloodthirster and Zeal from a little bit earlier on. Generally, a position that I think Gambit will have to make mistakes in to lose now.
Yeah, right now it's definitely Gambit's game to lose. I mean, if they go for maybe a risky or greedy dive, they might be caught up by Copenhagen Wolves. It is very hard to dive versus a Syra due to her ultimate. If you put that around, when the dive starts, you knock people up in tower range, you can actually turn the fight around. But so far, Gambit is looking very strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Alex H getting in there, even too fast for our cameraman as he just dives straight on top of him. And that's the danger for Kautard as well, I think, at this point. You said that he can get the Stranglethorns down, but if he gets even, remotely jumped on by Alex, he's probably going to get popped instantly.
Yeah, and Gambit has the opportunity right now due to Alex being so fed that Darren can just instantly ult on a target. Alex will jump and finish up. You see him jumping again.
Yeah, goes in actually this time on towards Kautard. This time, though, he's taken a lot of damage and he's not going to get the resets. Youngbuck will dive into the back as well. They finally get the shutdown onto him. Diamond doing a good job at the back, though, and Genja, meanwhile, has just thrown everything at him. He gets the movement speed, and now surely Unlimited has to flash away. They decide to change over towards Forgiven, who actually is doing a great job here to fend off Gambit.
Now, we talked about this. Gambit could potentially dive this, and Copenhagen Wolves had the chance to maybe pull it back. But Gambit is so far ahead right now, and Darren is so tanky. He just tanked the tower through the whole time, and Gambit came out 2 for 1.
Cullen actually coming out, not really doing much of a dent into that Gambit health bars. Yeah, they decide to just stick around, pick up their 5th turret of this game. And that mid lane all the way back to the inhibitor. The bottom lane only has an turret remaining as well. And as I said, going at the moment from bad to worse for the Copenhagen Wolves, though you have to say that kill onto Alex, certainly a welcome one, but they had to use so much just to stop that from happening, for him stopping him getting the kills there.
They had to put everything on getting the kill on him. Once again, though, the ultimate from Unlimited actually hit the wrong target. He was supposed to ultimate Kautard once again, but Kautard flashing away actually made him ultimate on Shyvana. Now, Kautard ended up dying later on, so potentially could have changed the fight if he actually had the ultimate on Kautard.
Well, let's have a look down some items that have come in here recently. That Wit's End has now been finished by Darian to add into things. Kautard's still not been able to move on to that needlessly large rod item. I think Zhonya's at this point would be a little bit handy for him, considering how things have been going down.
Now, Kautard has 2 options. He can either say, oh, nope, we'll actually go for this one.
Yeah, but they're just going to bait them in here. Surely Darian actually taking a lot, I want to say a lot of damage, but it wasn't really a lot of damage. He took a lot of what should have been damage, but because he's so tanky, none of it actually makes a difference.
Now, back to Kautard. He has 2 options. Either he goes for Zhonya's, he tries to survive team fights, or he builds the death cap and he just say, I just want to do as much damage as I can before I die. Gambit transition now around. Can they pick up his inhib?
Well, they're certainly going to be focusing straight on that one. A Hugh has landed here on towards Unlimited, and they're not going to go for it. The kick actually will go in there. There's the dive in. Alex, oh, he doesn't get a reset from that one. Actually, it was the ultimate use on himself there. The jump coming back out, though, as Forgiven goes down as well. And Alex Hitch at about half HP, actually less than half HP, could be in a little bit of trouble, but they just want this in him.
And meanwhile, this happened. Forgiven dies as well, meaning it's a 5v3 for Gambit. They're going to try to at least pick up the top tower right here. They should be getting it pretty freely. And now Nesha's coming up in 1 minute and 15 seconds. What will be the next move for Gambit? That is the big question right now.
Well, currently, after this one goes down, there's not a single turret left for Copenhagen Wolves that lies outside of their base. We do see that the Zhonya's Hourglass now has been finished for Kautard. We'll see how much of a difference that makes on the overall team fights that Copenhagen Wolves can produce.
Yeah, the question for Kautard right now is he just going to delay his death that's going to come anyway? If he can do that, he can obviously delay the reset from Alex, but the Zhonya's itself at this point, it's not going to do too much for him. I would actually probably have gone for a death cap and just try to deal as much damage as possible when the fight started. But again, he wants to prevent the reset or at least try to delay the reset from Alex.
Now, let's have a look once again here. This is Forgiven actually going down, which we missed earlier.
Now, oh, look at the damage from Genji's ultimate. It is an execute. The lower you are, the more damage you take. And Darren can just finish this one with no Warwick. He's probably one of the best champs in the game at chasing.
Yep, chasing all the way down to a Hungering Strike finish for him. Right now, he's just pushing that bottom lane out, and with that Wits End in there, with the tankiness that he's got, some Fire Cape as well, those waves do not last long with Warwick pushing them straight out there. Well, they've got everywhere to defend at this point, the Copenhagen Wolves. Obviously, a super minion streaming through the mid lane means that they have to spend some resources keeping those pushed back.
Now, Gambit can just take full control of the red side of Copenhagen Wolves jungle and then force the Nashor or force Copenhagen Wolves to try and come and fight for it. I don't actually expect Copenhagen Wolves to contest this Nashor. I think they're just going to give him for free and then try and take a last fight at one of the last in-hit turrets.
A last-ditch defense is maybe what the Wolves will be relying on from this one. Certainly, they're not going to get anywhere near Baron, as that is picked up for a second time this game by Gambit. Question is now, where do they go after this one? Actually, we do see the Riley's Crystal Scepter pretty much finished for Edward now as well. He's got 63 CS and sat at 316.
And Alex went for the Guardian Angel. He is now pretty much both unkillable and able to kill pretty much anyone of your team within a few seconds. So, for Copenhagen Wolves right now, what they need to do is have a team fight at the inhib turret. They need Alex to jump in, Lulu ultimate the target he jumps on, and at the same time whimsy Alex so they can instantly try and kill him, and then obviously have to kill him again while he resurrects. And there's also 4 other Gambit members, but for now, let's just talk about Alex.
You make it sound so simple.
It's very simple, very simple.
On paper, it's certainly simple. Whether we can see the Copenhagen Wolves pull that one out, and that would only be the start of a comeback as well. I mean, we're only 30 minutes into this game just about, and well, that means that it's a long road ahead of the Copenhagen Wolves, that's for sure. If they're to get back in, here comes Alex diving to Forgiven. We did see the Wild Growth coming onto him. Oh, but the kill from the side coming in. And there is Diamond right in the middle. He's kicked one back, but Youngbuck will dive away again. Edward going to throw his ulti down. Stranglethorns don't really do anything. Genji now finally going to join the fight. This is going to be an absolute massacre for Gambit. There's a double kill, triple kill for Alex. Can he get any more? Yes, he can. Picks himself up the Quadra, and that is going to be game here for Gambit. And as I said, you don't want to play against Gambit Gaming after they lose a game, because they are angry.
Amazing performance by Alex, amazing performance by Gambit, and amazing performance by Diamondprox, setting up the early kills on Kautat, snowballing Alex in the lane. In the end, Kautat decided to not go for any defensive items versus the Kazakhs, and Alex took full advantage of it.
We've seen time and time again how good Alexic is with Kha'Zix. We've seen time and time again teams banning out Kha'Zix against Alex. And there's a reason for all of that. It's because if he gets going, which you can damn well bet that Diamond's going to throw everything he can to get Alexic going on Kha'Zix, then you're in all kinds of trouble. And Kautar, you know, really felt the brunt of it. He sang his praises at the start of this one, showed his stats from it, that 4-1-5 that he finished with Kayle in their earlier win against Alliance. But this time around, Alex, well, he had the better start, and because of the way that Kha'Zix works, once you get that better start, it's not easy to really claw it back.
No, but Copenhagen Wolves must have expected this Kha'Zix pick from Gambit, and they must have felt that Zyra was the counter they needed for it. Sadly for them, though, due to all the early action against Kautar, he simply fell behind, too far behind, and Alex could just do whatever he wanted in this lane and just went from worse and worse and worse. So overall, maybe Copenhagen Wolves underestimated Kha'Zix a little bit and ended up losing the game.
Oh, we know a key part of that build for Kautar is that Athene's unholy grail, but in the end, do you think going straight for that and, you know, negating any kind of armor against Alex, who was just building and building and building, do you think that was a mistake in the looking back onto it?
It was definitely a mistake. It meant that Alex, once he got just a little bit ahead, could just keep jumping and jumping and pretty much pick up a kill every time. He didn't even have to think when he was jumping. As long as he knew that Diamond was somewhat nearby, he could go for it. Because if Amazing was there for a counter gang, we talked about it a little bit that he should be there, then Diamond obviously would be there to help. But the fact that Kautar didn't go for any armor at all meant that Alex didn't even need any help.
One thing I also want to touch on is Warwick in the top lane. It's the second time we've seen it from Darren recently in pre-season, I guess we can say, and once in preseason, now once in the actual season here in week 1. Finished 4-1-10 and went pretty much the exact way that we expected him to. Getting tanky, becoming almost unkillable, throwing out the stuns where he could and chasing down to mop things up.
Now, I'm not too convinced by the Warwick pick yet, mainly because it wasn't really about top lane this game.
Yeah.
Darren actually did lose his turret to Youngbok. Obviously, when he TP'd away, he lost the second one, but you can't really blame him for that. But in general, he was under pressure in the lane. He kept up in farm, but his tower was very low and actually ended up going down just before he TP'd.
Well, a very solid bounce-back victory here from Gambit. And up next, Shox and Quickshot. We'll talk to Alex H from Gambit, and then it's time for our 6th and final match of opening day here, with 2 teams making their 2014 LCS debut. Candy Panda and his new SK Gaming teammates who battle against Aranea and the rest of Millennium. We'll be right back.